is none other than the very admirable Coach Lou Holtz from the University of South Carolina. Let's give him a wonderful Milliken welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Malone. I really appreciate that wonderful comment, that wonderful introduction, and so obviously you did a lot of work and preparation on it. It's the type of introduction I could listen to all night, and just like you, I thought I was going to have to. I think it was 8 minutes in duration, but you have no idea how nervous I am to be a surprise speaker, because I walk out there, everybody goes, oh no, we thought it was going to be done. It's like when I'd have a blind date, the girl would go, oh no. But I am delighted to be here. I want to congratulate you on the tremendous success you've had. I've talked to Dr. Malone, etc. I said, tell me about the group, and they said, you're going to talk to a very intelligent group that's achieved great success. And for a company that is as worldwide as you are, that's had the success, 16,000 associates, 135 years in business, and for me to be afforded the opportunity to share some thoughts and ideas with the people responsible for the continued success is sincerely humbling for me. I'm not going to preach to you, I'm not going to lecture to you, but understand who Lou Holtz is not. I'm not a singer, I'm not a dancer, I'm not an entertainer, I'm not an intellect. I finished in the lower half of my high school class. Now that doesn't make me proud, but that's a fact. If it was not for me, there would have been no upper half of the class. I understand that. And when I left Notre Dame, I never thought I was going to coach again, because where do you go from Notre Dame except, according to my mother, directly to heaven, and you sit by the Pope? I mean, you just don't coach anymore. And I'm doing TV work, and on TV you just talk to you, think of something to say. It isn't real complicated. But when you get up in the morning and you got problems, you got difficulties, you got decisions to make, get down on your knees and thank God, because that's what life's all about. And I really missed having to get out of bed and do something that was going to affect and influence other people's lives. At the University of South Carolina, we have a difficult challenge, but I went there because I think that's what life's all about, is being able to help influence other people and bring them to heights that they never thought was capable possible before. People said, did you go there for money? Absolutely not. As a matter of fact, when we went to the press conference, Dr. Palm said, Lou, I'd appreciate if you wouldn't say anything about salary. I said, oh, don't worry, Dr. Palms, I'm as embarrassed about it as you are. I won't say a word. So, but, you know, congratulations. You know, you've done such a marvelous job. I remember when we became #1 at Notre Dame, I called the NCAA and I said, now that we're #1, I assume our touchdowns are worth 9 points. They said, no. I said, well, if we fumble, do they give it back? He said, no. This is what happens when you have great success. First thing that happens, people expect more from you. They expect you to be better than anybody else. Not enough just be good. Second thing that happens is people study your strengths and emulate them. Study your weaknesses and attack them. The third thing that happens, you don't want to change. You want to keep going along the same way. And the fourth thing that happens is you want to be able to sit back and enjoy your success. But to me, the most difficult thing that happened when we became #1, the thing I regret the most, is we became #1, we worked hard to maintain it, and that was a mistake. Because what happens when you have great success, you stop dreaming. At the University of Notre Dame, I wish we'd set standards that nobody thought was possible before, instead of trying to maintain something. So I'm not here to preach or lecture to you, but I'd like to share with you some reasons why I think you've had great success. And these are the same things we're going to try to build in our football program. I'll try to cover them as rapidly as I can. First of all, I think attitude is the most critical thing we have to develop at the University of South Carolina. I think the attitude people have is by far more important than anything else. I believe that in the bottom of my heart. You know, God gave you the power to love and to think and to imagine, but the greatest power you have is the power to choose. And the attitude we choose is by far the most important thing. It's always amazing to me when they introduce me, they sort of slide over the time I spent with the Jets. You know, I signed a 5-year contract and only stayed 8 months. It doesn't give me a lot of satisfaction to talk about this, but I went there with a negative attitude saying, I'm not sure this is going to work out. I'm not sure this is what I want to do. And lo and behold, I got up every morning and said, I'm not sure this is what I want to do. And with a negative attitude about challenges, about opportunities. You know, every time you have a problem, I know you look on it as an opportunity. I looked on it as a problem and looked for a way out. And we let other people sometimes affect our attitude, and we can digress. Jerome Bettis, number 36, a bus played for me. And when he left Notre Dame, he was drafted in the first round. He was Rookie of the Year. His second year wasn't very good. His third year was a disaster. We had an open date, and I'm watching the Rams play. And he didn't play well, and I called him on Monday. I said, Jerome, Miss Coach. Oh, yeah, Coach, what do you want? I said, I'm not sure if you're aware of it or not, but I watched the Rams play yesterday, and Jerome, I swear, there's somebody impersonating you. They got your jersey on, your number, and your name, but I know it's not you because you never play like that, but you ought to put a stop to this impersonator, and hung the phone up. That's all I wanted to say. Every story I tell you is absolutely true. As soon as the season was over, Jerome was in my office. He said, Coach, when I left Notre Dame, I had a wonderful attitude. And I got with the wrong people, and I let my attitude digress. He said, I'm going to spend the next 5 months here and get my attitude right, which he did. And when Pittsburgh traded for him, they weren't getting the same guy who was with the Rams. They got the same talent, but a different attitude. And we let people affect our attitude. I remember a few years ago, we took Notre Dame down to New Orleans to play in the Sugar Bowl, play Florida, coached by Steve Spurrier. We were an underdog, but our team had such a wonderful attitude, togetherness, teamwork, and lo and behold, I sent them home for 2 days over Christmas. I took my wife, my 4 children, we went to Orlando. Now, we have 4 children, they're all girls but 2, and I'm real proud of that fact. And we go out, I went out to dinner. I'm never happier than when I'm with my wife and my family. And I want to say to you, if you want some great advice, listen to your spouse. Nobody knows you any better, loves you anymore, wants to see you succeed anymore, will be any more honest with you. My wife, not only somebody I love dearly, we've been married 39 years, she's my best friend. And so I'm in a great mood. And when I talk about my wife, I remember when I was at Ohio State under Woody Hayes, we were fortunate enough to win the national championship. And the entranceway to the airport, they put up a big billboard sign that said, "Congratulations, Ohio State." And behind every successful man or woman stands a very surprised mother-in-law. And I know that's true in my case, might be true in yours. But in any event, we're sitting around there. I'm in a great mood, and the waiter came up, and he recognized me. He said, "You're Lou Holtz, head coach at Notre Dame, aren't you?" And I said, "Yes, sir." Took out my pen thinking he wanted an autograph. He said, "Let me ask you a question." He said, "What's the difference between Notre Dame and Cheerios?" And I said, "Gee, I don't know." And he said, "Cheerios belong in a bowl, Notre Dame doesn't." Yeah, that's a waiter, you know. And I looked at him, I said, "Let me ask you a question." I said, "What's the difference between Lou Holtz and a golf pro?" He said, "I don't know." I said, "A golf pro gives tips." You know, which he found out when the evening was over. But I could have let that individual ruin the evening with the people I love and cherish the most. And the thing we're trying to generate is an attitude, and that's why I'll leave here tonight and be at our 6 o'clock workout tomorrow morning. We will develop the proper attitude. The second thing I think is critical is you have to have a passion to win. And a passion to win means 2 things to me. One, it means sacrifice. I love to be around successful people, successful teams, and successful business. Because I know there's no way in this world you can succeed without having made a sacrifice. And what the losers do, they always bitch and moan and complain because they have to do certain things. It's like our football team about going to class, about lifting weights or working out. See, that looks like to them to punishment. But you're going to make sacrifice. I was on an elevator, and a young lady was on there with a jogging outfit about 6 in the morning. I said, "How far are you going to run?" She said, 7 miles. I said, "Wow, I don't even drive that far." And it offended her, and she said, "Do you jog?" I said, "Oh, no, I want to be sick when I die." And I think it affected her. But I admire people that have that discipline. And the other thing I think a passion to win means you get rid of all the excuses why you can't. You get rid of the excuses why you can't do something. You know, I was talking to our football team the other day. My hero is a guy by the name of Andrew Rowan. Now, you probably never heard of him. It's in a book, and you can read it in 30 minutes, titled A Message to Garcia. And this is a true story. In 1898, when the Spanish-American Civil War broke out, President McKinley needed somebody to take a message to Garcia, who was in the hills of Cuba, who would lead an insurrection to help the Americans with the rebels there. And Andrew Rowan, a lieutenant at that time, later became a colonel, was selected. Now later he was decorated, the commander-in-chief of the army said it was the greatest act of heroism and hazardous duty that anybody has ever undertaken before. Now he went in, met with President McKinley, he gave him the message to Garcia in an envelope, he put an oilskin sheepskin, taped it to his chest. 4 days later was left off in an open-air boat on the shores of Cuba. 3 weeks later, he emerged on the other side of the island after having delivered the message to Garcia. Now, here's what makes him so great. Was he didn't say, well, where can I find him? Who's going to help me? How am I going to get there? I don't know where he is. Can't somebody else do it? He had a job, he had a mission, and he went and he did it. And that's what makes this company great from everything I understand. You just have a group of people that you empower to do things. Same thing with a football team. I can't coach. I can only lead. I can only inspire. I can only direct. But in the long run, it's a group of people that get rid of excuses and have a passion to succeed, a passion to win. You know, as I said, we aren't going to win in South Carolina because I'm there anymore, and you're going to change a flat tire by changing the driver. We'll win the minute we get rid of all the excuses and all the other reasons why we can't. The third thing I think is critical. You have to understand your sense of purpose. Now, I'm not very smart, but I do have common sense. It's the only thing I have. That was obvious to me in the 7th grade. Had a nun named Sister Mary Harriet. She didn't like me. She passed out a test. I didn't know a single answer. And I started looking around out of boredom, and she looked at me. She said, Lou Holtz, don't you even think about cheating. She said, if I even suspect you cheating, I'm taking 10% off your grade. And I got out the textbook, and I said, 90 sounds good to me. It really did. So I'm not real smart, but it's just common sense. Understand what you're trying to do. You know, ladies and gentlemen, all we're trying to do in South Carolina is graduate our athletes and win. Every decision we make ought to be based on how can we graduate them and how can we win. See, so many times people get confused about what they're trying to do. Trying to put this person to pro, make All-American, get publicity. Let's graduate and win, and let's make that the focus. See, ladies and gentlemen, why have you been successful? And as I say, I think you've had 3 CEOs. And Mr. Milliken, Roger, I just can't say enough of the respect I have for your family and what you've done. Because you've grown, because you understand what you're trying to do. You're not running a plant. You're not running a research and development. You're not running a sales organization. To me, you're only doing one thing. You're trying to help the customers get what they want. You look at every organization you have. You look at every bit of business that you are conducting. It's always try to help the customer get what they want. Now, I'm not smart enough about business, but I've been in sales. I sold cemetery plots, true story. When I was William Mary, 9-month-year job, an assistant coach. 3 months out of the year, I had to get a job supporting family. I sold cemetery plots. Now, I don't know how tough your job is, but I'm going to tell you, South Carolina is harder than that. But that's the only one. My wife said, you won't sell anything. Well, that motivated me. And that summer, I sold more than anybody. I sold our car, our stereo, our TV. I never sold a cemetery plot. And the guy said, you know, at a 3-day seminar, I said, you don't sell anything. You just help people get what they want. There's not a business in operation today that isn't in it for that purpose. And furthermore, if you look at Fortune 500 companies today, and 50 years ago, very few appear on the same list. Why? People's needs change. And you have to change to meet the needs of the people. People were so busy running a railroad in the 30s, they went bankrupt. Their job was not to run a railroad. Their job was to transport people from one location to the other. Had they done that, we'd have the New Haven Airlines or the Pennsylvania Airlines. And people fight change. Change is great as long as you're changing for one thing, to meet the needs of the customers. And everything you do in your flat-level organizations, I understand, is for one reason, to help the customers get what they want. But why do people fight change? I don't know. Do you realize in 1878 they invented the typewriter? And the problem they had when they invented the typewriter was if you typed too fast, the key stuck. They said, how can we keep the keys from sticking? And somebody came up with a brilliant idea and said, I know. Let's hide the letter on the keypads. We'll put A up here, and they'll never think of looking for B down here. And by the time they find C, the other key will be down. You know, did you ever wonder why the keys are that way? That was so you couldn't type fast. Now you try to change the keypad. Oh, don't change that, because I know that. People fight change, but as long as you're changing to meet the needs of the customer. And the fourth thing I think is absolutely critical, I think you have to be a dreamer. Ladies and gentlemen, I think anything that happens, great. happens because of a dream. I would love sometime to sit down and talk to Mr. Milliken about the history, about how this all came about, how you've grown. I'll guarantee you somebody had a dream. I have a dream. I think dreams move people, dreams inspire people, and if you show me somebody that doesn't have a dream, I'll show you somebody that doesn't have an excitement for life, doesn't have a burning desire to get up in the morning and go do things. Martin Luther King made one of the 10 greatest speeches ever made in the history of mankind, according to the poll taken, where he stood up in Washington and he said, I have a dream. I have a dream. How much more effective would that have been had he stood up and said, I have a strategic plan? See, people don't follow strategic. People follow dreams. I have a dream about winning the championship, and I'm going to tell you right now, that's what gets me up in the morning. That's what causes me to go back tonight to be at that winter workout at 6 o'clock in the morning. And I've never come to an organization I spent this afternoon that I think I'm going to learn more than what I did this afternoon about your organization, and particularly your educational system, about your Milliken University. And I thought, you know, we don't keep teaching our coaches how to recruit and how to counsel, and that's something we have to do. But we have dreams. You know, I'm 5'10", 152 pounds, wear glasses, speak with a lisp, have a physique that appears like I've been afflicted with beriberi and scurvy most of my life. I wasn't a good athlete. I'd sign a non-aggression pact with the opposition before the game. You don't hit me, I won't hit you. I mean, and the only reason I can stand up here was a few years ago, I came down with some dreams. I never had any before. When I got out of high school, all I wanted to do was have a job in the mill, a car, a girl, and $5. I'd never had any of them, and who could want more out of life than that? And my high school coach went to my mom and dad and said, he ought to go to college and be a coach. I said, I'm not going to college. They said, you are. I said, I'm not. So we compromised, and I went. That was a typical compromise with my parents then. But you know what, ladies and gentlemen? One time when I was unemployed, and I was a stay-at-home dad till I could get relocated. And my wife had to go to work, and I was at home, had a lot of time, and got a book that talked about dreams. And I'm unemployed, so get out a pencil and paper, and I did what the book told me to do. It said, break it down into 5 categories. Things you want to do as a husband and a father. Things I want to do religiously. God's important in my life. I don't preach it, but I hope the way I live my life reflects it. Things I want to accomplish professionally. Some things I want to accomplish financially, and things I want to do for excitement. You know, when you're unemployed, it's like that. What would I like to do? Yeah, I'd like to jump out of an airplane, land on an aircraft carrier, go on a submarine, be on the Tonight Show with Johnny Carson. I wanted to go to the White House for dinner. I wanted to see the Pope. I wanted to make a hole in one. I wanted to learn how to do magic. I wanted to play the greatest golf course in the world. I wanted to go to Pamplona and run with the bulls with a slower person. You know. I'm writing them down. I had 107 of them. And I said to my wife, I said, we're going to do them all. And she said, gee, that's great. She said, why don't you get a job? So we made it 108. And, you know, we've done 101 of them. You don't do that to say I'm special, but don't go through life and be a spectator. I know what it's like to come out of an airplane 10,000 feet and free fall 5,000 feet in 45 seconds. Pull the chute and fall the other 5,000 feet in 7.5 minutes. I ain't never going to do it again. I got my wife, my 4 children, my 76-year-old mother-in-law at that time. We went whitewater rafting in the Snake River at Hell's Canyon. I had no idea how dangerous it was, but I've never seen anything that scary. I should have known it was dangerous because a lot of people offered to send their mother-in-law with me. But I got, you know, 3 different guides and 3 different rafts, and we're going to be there 4 days, 3 nights, and we no sooner get in there, and the guy said, get ready, Coach, going through Big Chief. I said, what's that? He said, that's Class 5 rapids. I didn't even know they classified them. And I said, what's that? He said, that's the most dangerous you can go through. I said, give me an example, Class 6. He said, Niagara Falls. So I'm so smart, I stuck my little thumb down that little rope on the outside of the air tube. We hit that sucker, my feet go up over my head. I come out of the raft 3 seconds for my right thumb. I broke my right thumb in 4 places, but I didn't know it because I came up underneath the raft. They didn't teach me to hand walk my way out from under the raft, so I went back down thinking going to continue, but I'm going at the same rate of speed. Second time I come up underneath the raft, that's when I realized winning the national championship wasn't really that big of a deal. There was one thought on my mind, and the word was win. And win stands for what's important now. The only thing important now was get out from under the raft, get my head above water. See, ladies and gentlemen, I tell our athletes, our goal and our dream is to win the championship. If they'll ask themselves 25 times a day, what's important now? You wake up in the morning, what's important now? Get out of bed. Oh, I never thought of that. Eat breakfast, need your strength. Go to class, sit in the front row. When you're in the weight room and you want to win the national championship, what's important? To get stronger. Not to lift because somebody's going to look you or somebody's going to applaud you, but because you know that's what you have to do, and you want to win, and you're out Saturday night and there's booze and drugs and sex and heroin. You want to win, what's important now? You better avoid that situation. See, ladies and gentlemen, when I gave a questionnaire to our football players last year, very few of our players, and this is shocking, but it's also sad, very few of our players had a dream. What are the things you want to do? I like to sleep. I like to do video games. I like to watch TV. Nobody said, I want to play in the pros. I want to graduate. I want to go work for Milliken. Nobody dreams, and that's our problem. Because when you don't dream, you don't have an enthusiasm, and everything you have to do seems like punishment. And like anything else, you know, you get dreams, you get excited, and boy, then first time you have adversity, you fall down. I say 4 people. Number 1's a cop-out. Man, they won't even try. Oh, I know I could go do that, but society's against me. I'm not going to get a fair break, you know. I'm not even going to try. And they make up excuses. The reason they aren't going to try, they could do it, but nobody's going to treat them fair. The second group of people is a guy that holds out. Oh, I think I could do that, Coach, but I'm not ready. You win. I'll tell you what, if you start winning, I'll jump in there, but not right now. Then the dropout. They get started, they have all this enthusiasm. Yeah, we're going to do it. And the first time they get knocked down, they drop out. Oh, I didn't know I was going to get hit. I didn't know it was going to be this hard. What I look for is individuals all out. Going to have problems, going to have obstacles, going to have difficulties, going to have adversity. But that's the type of people you need in the foxhole with you. People are going to help you. And this is what happens to people that don't have a dream. They'll either hold out, cop out, or drop out. Like when our football team, we were getting ready to play Michigan, and the other night on Classic Sports, I was watching the game. That's what brought it to my mind. We played Michigan in the opening game. That was the game Rocket Ismail ran back 2 kickoffs to enable us to win the game. And I knew Rocket was special when he was a freshman. I said to my wife, boy, he's going to be good. She said, he's only been there 1 day. I said, but I saw him play tennis. And she said, how can you tell anything from that? I said, he's playing by himself. You know, he many people can do this. But I was watching that game the other night on Classic Sports, and I couldn't help but think, when our football team came back, I said, we got to go to Michigan and play them. We're number 1, they're number 2, opening game. It's going to be hard. We only have 29 practices, but we got to make the most of them. But we had some great practices. But then you know what happened? They got tired, they got worn out. They didn't care about Michigan. And boy, we weren't getting a bit better. They're going through the motions. They weren't like you. You people are positive, upbeat, just the way you react. And I went out the 11th day, and I called him up, and I said, man, I know you're tired, so I called Bo Schembecker today, the coach at Michigan. Now, I didn't call Bo, but I told him I did, and I said, Bo, are your players at Michigan tired? He said, yeah. I said, Bo, we're tired too. Tell you what, Bo, you give Michigan players a day off today, and I'm going to give Notre Dame players a day off. Man, they started high-fiving one another and hugging one another. It was tremendous. And I looked at him, I said, Bo said no. And they lied. Bo said he doesn't care how tired you are. He's going to practice 2 hours. I don't want to practice, but if we're going to beat Michigan, we got to practice 2.5. Took us 3 hours, but we got 2.5 hours practice. Worked so well that day, I walked out the next day, called them up, and I said, hey, man, I called Bo today. And they looked at me real funny, and they said, what'd Bo say? I said, Bo, your players beat up and sore? He said, yeah. I said, I tell you what, Bo, you practice them in shorts, and I'll practice Notre Dame in shorts. And I said, man, you won't believe this. Bo said no. Bo said he doesn't care how sore you are. He's going to scrimmage. I don't want to scrimmage you. But if we're going to beat Michigan, we got to scrimmage. And don't get mad at me, but you remember this when you see Bo on September 12th. That's got going, not me. I did this 4 straight days. Walked out the 5th day, and before I could say a word, one of our players said, hey, Coach, I called Bo today. I said, what'd Bo say? He said, Bo said his players eat steak and lobster, you know. But the last point I want to make is by far the most important one. I think that all great organizations are comprised of people that lift each other up and not pull each other down. To me, as a coach or as a leader, you either lift them up or you pull them down. Same thing with a spouse. Same thing with employees. We either lift people up, and the great organizations are the ones that lift each other up. The poor ones are the ones that pull each other down, trying to lead them the wrong way, trying to find fault. And it's not a good way. And I know because I used to be that way with my wife, for example. I used to be insanely jealous of my wife. And never once in 39 years of marriage has my wife given me reason to be jealous. Problem wasn't with my wife, the problem was with me. We'd go to a cocktail party, she'd be talking to another man. He's always better looking, better built, and I'd think, gee, why wouldn't she rather be with him than with me? And all the way home, I would unfairly criticize my wife, unfairly, trying to pull her self-confidence down till she'd reach a point where she would think she was lucky to have me. See, it's a tremendous disservice I did to that young lady. It's the same thing in dealing with athletes or dealing with children or dealing with fellow employees. And to me, I think self-confidence doesn't come from looks and doesn't come from intelligence. Nobody likes the way they look, I find. And it bothered me, though, when they put my picture. We went to Disneyland once, and they took a picture of our captains with Mickey Mouse, Donald Duck, and asked me to pose for a picture. On my left, they put Pluto, and on my right, they put Goofy. I thought it was weird, didn't say anything, but the picture that appeared in the LA Times on the Monday after Thanksgiving, 1988, was the one with me, not the captains. The captain said, here's Lou Holtz, head football coach of Notre Dame's Fighting Irish at Disneyland with Pluto and Goofy. Now, there's nothing wrong with that. What bothered me was the next sentence was in bold capital letters. It jumped off the page at you. It said, Lou Holtz is the one in the middle. You just say. But what I believe from the bottom of my heart, everybody that you meet, everybody you talk to, asks three questions. I don't care whether you're in Germany or here. Question number one that everybody asks, can I trust you? Why have you had great success? People trust Milliken, trust your products. And I think it was a Live Oaks fire. I believe what you did with that was incredible. How you got to your customers. How you told them when they could expect their orders, etc. See, ladies and gentlemen, you were building trust. You don't have the great success you've had. 16,000 associates without people being able to trust you. It's the same thing. My wife and I have been able to be married because she can trust me and I can trust her. If we can't trust one another, we don't have a chance. I got to have athletes I can trust, but they got to be able to trust me. Everything starts with trust. All relationships got to be based on trust. The only way I know you get people to trust you is if you just stop and say, what's the right thing to do, and do right. Do what's right, avoid what's wrong. I think it's right to be honest. I think it's right to be on time. I think it's right to be loyal. I think it's wrong to practice sexism, racism. I think it's wrong to be bitter. We've all seen the person growing old, being bitter about something that happened 20 years ago, didn't get a promotion, society, coach, teacher, spouse, I don't know. But we've all seen that person growing old, being bitter, and when they pass away, their spouse has to hire pallbearers because they don't have 6 friends. You can't be bitter. I also think you can't feel guilty. It's wrong to feel guilty. I've done a lot of bad things or dumb things. That doesn't mean I'm a bad person. It means I've made bad decisions. All you can do is say you're sorry, make amends, and move on. You can't go through life with an albatross around your neck. Oh, I made this mistake. That's over. Happiness is nothing more than having a poor memory. If I can't remember what happened last year, I feel real good today. And the second question everybody asks, are you committed to excellence? Do you really want to be good? You can have all the slogans you want, but you send a message by the standards you have. You know, my hero is Michael Jordan. Because I happened to be near Chicago when Michael Jordan won those championships. Michael Jordan had a standard. Didn't matter whether it was the first game of the NBA season or the 7th game of the NBA Finals. He had a standard the way he ought to play. And he did it every game, every year. I was at a golf tournament with Michael, and after we were sitting around the celebrity room. Michael was here, I was here, Tubby Smith from Kentucky was there, Digger Phelps, NBA All-Star, and some other people. And Michael said to me in a voice loud enough for the NBA All-Star, who happened to be his friend, and he wasn't trying to put him down, he was trying to help him. He said to me, he said, Lou, he said, he'll never win a championship like we did. Now, he used the word we, you may not realize it, but Michael and I together have won 7 championships. He had 6, I have 1. But together we had 7. I felt we won a couple others we didn't get, but he said he'll never win an NBA championship. And the guy said, well, how? You can't say that. Now, Michael wasn't trying to hurt him. Michael said, you're an NBA All-Star. I played with you in the Olympics. You're a great player. But he said, you've never won a championship and you won't win one again unless you change. The guy said, what do you mean? Michael said, how many pounds overweight are you? He said, 30. But he said, it doesn't matter because we're in a lockout. Michael said, that's what I'm talking about. If you want to be a champion, you think that way all the time. You don't wait till camp starts. He said, I want to tell you something else. You can't win a championship yourself. You can be an all-star, you can play in the Olympics, but to be a champion, you must inspire other people around you to think in terms of a championship. You know, I thought it was the most revealing thing about Michael. I happen to serve on General Colin Powell's board of directors, America's Alliance of Promise with the Youth. And I promised him that if I ever speak in front of a group, I would tell you what a great cause that is, how important it is for people to get behind that cause to help those that are less fortunate. But there's a guy's committed excellence. People say to me, Coach, what's the difference between athletes today and 25 years ago? The same difference I see in society. So many times, people today want to talk about their rights and their privileges. 25 years ago, people talked about their obligations and their responsibilities. I'm one of these old-fashioned people that believe when you join a spouse, you bring a child in the world, you join a business, you join a team. You have obligations and you have responsibilities. One of the most disappointing losses I ever had was at Notre Dame. We're playing Stanford. We're ahead by 16 and we get beat. Should have won the game. And I couldn't eat, I couldn't sleep, and I went home. The reason we lost was we had that program to the top and tried to maintain it instead of taking it to another level, which I already talked about, and it started going downhill a little bit. We lost because we didn't do some little things the wrong way. And it wasn't the players' fault, it was my fault. Because I didn't believe in them enough and set enough higher standards for them. And so I went to the practice. I said, boy, I'm going to raise the standard because I believe in you. You don't say, here's the standard, you don't reach it, you're gone. You say, here's the standard, I'm going to help you reach it. And all I ask you to do is do the best you can in everything you do. We had an All-American left guard, Aaron Taylor, was injured. He just retired from San Diego Chargers, played with the Packers. He'd been in the league for about 11 years. And lo and behold, I put in a second-string left guard. And didn't take very long into practice to realize second-string left guard was just going through the motions. And I stopped practice. I said to left guard, his man was making every play. And I said, what gives you the right to jeopardize your teammates' chance of success? If you don't want to succeed, you have that right. But you don't have the right to cause your teammates to fail. When you join this team, you have an obligation to help them succeed. And I said, give him an explanation. He couldn't. I said, I just want you to go over and think about it. And the third-string left guard jumped in his place. I was so mad, I said, no, we're going to play a 10. It was a dumb thing to do, but I wasn't thinking real quick. We broke the huddle. We only had 10 guys. That's when I was proud of our defense. They recognized we didn't have a left guard. Don't have a left guard. I said, I know. They said, what do we do? I said, act like we have one. Rick Meyer gives the ball to Reggie Brooks, and Oliver Gibson, who's with the Cincinnati Bengals, come through the vacant left guard, hit Reggie Brooks. As soon as he got the ball, tremendous thud. Moment of silence. Reggie started to moan, I can't see it. It scares. He's a coach, and we turned his helmet around. He was fine, and, you know, it came back to huddle. They came back, the players are grumbling, ran another play, and they're grumbling again, and ran another play, and they're really upset. And I said, what's wrong? What's wrong? I said, we don't have left guard. I said, when did you notice? They looked at me funny, and I said, man, we haven't had a left guard all day. I said, I'm tired of imposters. I'm tired of impersonators. I said, last Saturday, we played with 8 players. I'd rather played with 8 than 8 players and 3 imposters. I said, we would have lost. But at least everybody would have known we only had 8, and their comment would have been, gee, if we had 11 like them, we'd really be good. We never lost again for 17 straight games. Our last 5 games that year, we played 5 nationally ranked teams. Our average margin of victory in those 5 games was 21 points. The Cotton Bowl, we played Texas A&M 12-0, number 2 in the country. We beat them 28-3. I've had more football players from that team tell me that understanding the obligation they have to other people is maybe the best lesson they've ever learned. And I believe in that strongly. And I believe if somebody doesn't do the best they can, it's our obligation to inspire them and to understand the obligation. The last question everybody asks, do you care about me? Do you care about me because I can run or throw, or do you care about me as a person? You know, this is a beautiful fair night, and I look forward to seeing you get your awards tonight. But this, as I say it, is their way of saying, we really care about you and we appreciate you. Showing your customers you care, showing your spouse, showing your children, showing your fellow workers, your fellow associates that you care. You're smarter than I am. You can come up with 100 different ways to show them. My wife, unfortunately, has had a severe case of cancer. Her survival rate was 10%. It was stage 4. It was misdiagnosed by a doctor, but she's going to beat it. Her attitude's marvelous. When she came back from the hospital, we had billboards. We had yellow ribbons around the tree. I carry little lifesavers in my pocket during practice, about 4, and say, boy, you just saved our team. Or I'll put a payday candy bar in the locker room and say, my dad told me if you worked hard, you get a payday. Here it is. I wish the NCAA allowed me to make it a little bit more attractive to show you the tremendous respect we have for you, what you do. But see, ladies and gentlemen, if we understand that everybody wants to know, do you care? You can find a lot of ways to show them. And the last thing I want to say to you about caring, there's not one individual you're ever going to meet the rest of your life, and we have very successful people here tonight, and I'd venture to say there's not one person in this room tonight that doesn't need a kind smile, a kind word, that doesn't need friendship. Because everybody you ever meet the rest of your life, every fellow associate worker, every customer, every person on the street's got a problem. Is carrying a heavy burden and needs encouragement. Our initial reaction is we think we're the only ones with a problem, and everybody ought to understand our problem. That is the basis of our program. Can I trust you? Are you committed? Do you care? That's why we have those 3 rules. One of my goals was to learn how to do magic. It's like any other newspaper. You have front page for people who want to read the news. You have the comics for people who can't read. And you have the editorial page for people who can't think. But what I'd like you to do, I'd like you to do this for me. I'd like you to take 3 people. Somebody you love, admire, and respect, can be anybody in this world. And take somebody you got a problem with, can be anybody in this world. And put these 3 questions on both people. Can you trust them, yes or no? Are they committed to excellence, yes or no? Do they care about you and the organization, yes or no? The people you admire and respect, you just said yes to all 3 questions. The person you got a problem with, you just pinpointed the problem. Either you can't trust them, they aren't committed, or they don't care. See, it isn't real complicated in how you do things right there. I leave this with you. Somebody, thank you. Somebody said, how'd you do that? Perfectly, I thought. But in any event, I wake up middle of the night screaming because I can't figure it out either. But just to summarize, attitude's a choice. A passion to win means sacrifice, get rid of excuses. Understand our sense of purpose. Never forget that. Have dreams, remember the word win. Lift people up. And everybody asks, can I trust you? You committed? Do you care? As long as I can continue to say yes to those 3, you'll continue to have great success. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here. When I stood up here, I knew 10% of you wouldn't remember 10% of what I said 10 minutes after I said it. But for the last 43 minutes, you give me your most prized possession. That's your time, and I genuinely appreciate it. I'm thankful you gave me the opportunity to share in this wonderful evening tonight. I look forward to talking to our squad tomorrow at 6 o'clock in the morning about the success of this company and the history of it. And I mean that sincerely. I share what all successful organizations have. And one thing they have is genuine caring for each other. We had a young man write a poem over in Dublin, Ireland. We went over to Ireland to play, and we took him to a monastery, and there was nothing but dilapidated walls and a huge cemetery. I didn't know it was dilapidated walls. We're going to be there 2 hours. He writes a poem titled The Dash. And he said, I've seen death stare at me with my own eyes in a way many cannot know. I've seen death take a lot of other people and left me here below. I've heard many mother cries, but death refused to hear. And in my life, I've seen a lot of faces filled with many, many tears. After death has come and gone, a tombstone sits for many to see. But it's no more than a symbol of a person's memory. Under the person's name, it read the date of birth, dash, and the date the person passed. The more I think about the tombstone, the only important thing is the dash. Yes, I see the name of the person, but that I might forget. I read the date of birth and death, but even that might not stick. But thinking about the person, I can't help but to think about the dash, because that represents a person's life, and that will always last. So when you begin to charter your life, make sure you're on a positive path, because people may forget your birth and death, but never forget your dash. I thought that was pretty good insight by a 21-year-old defensive lineman. I congratulate you, but I also challenge you in this beautiful environment. I challenge you to sit back and say, you know, what I've done, I'm proud of. You can be proud of what you've accomplished. But I also challenge you to think about different ways you can take it to another level. Don't make the mistake I did, and I will never make again. I've taken it up very high, and then being satisfied. Take it to another level. Thank you for having me. God bless you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank
Really
you.
appreciate that.
My pleasure.